Welcome to the Starter Girlz Podcast, the show dedicated to the Starter Girl. She's an achiever, she's a creator, she's a magic maker, she's a dreamer, and she is doing all the things. I'm your host, Jennifer Loading, and welcome to this episode. All right, so here we are, another episode of the Starter Girlz Podcast. And I'm so excited about my guest today. She's amazing. CK Collins, otherwise known, she goes by Kelly. I love it, is a author. She is the author of the Swipe Right Effect. And one of the things I like about her is like her tagline is something like, if you're stuck, let's fix that. And so I'm super thrilled to get her on here today. She has an incredible career. She's done, several different things, but I want to have her on here to share a little bit about her journey and what she's doing. So welcome to the show, Kelly. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on.
This is going to be fun. And you have such an incredible background back there. I'm just loving the nice sun, and you've got I think a pool back there and
yeah,
all kinds of summer
this
vibes.
is my gorgeous place, but it's my brother's. I'm I'm visiting.
Hey,
yeah, visiting in
Tennessee.
Tennessee. So.
Oh, Tennessee. Okay, very cool, very cool. Well, at least the weather's beautiful there. And what's the temp in Tennessee right now?
Oh, it's like 70 today. It's beautiful.
Oh,
perfect
gorgeous.
weather.
Yeah, gorgeous spring weather. So, all right, well, let's jump into this. I know our audience is going to be itching to hear from you. And because like I've told you before, these, Starter Girlz is all about the female entrepreneur, creator, the achiever. I say the Starter Girlz, she's doing all the things. And so these are moms, these are wives, these are marathon runners, authors, speakers, just incredible women. And so I want to talk about the inspiration behind your book real quick so they can get kind of some background on this, the swipe right. It's the swipe right effect, which I absolutely love. So tell us a little bit about the inspiration behind that.
Well, thank you for asking. It's really a pay it forward book, very much about my friendships. And the swipe right effect is, in a dating app, you swipe right to choose someone. And so what I'm suggesting in the book is to swipe right for yourself and to choose to work on yourself and become, happy and in love with yourself. And I know sometimes that seems cliche to people, but I've lived it, and I know it's much better if you do it in that order. And so as I was traveling last year, I kept really reflecting and trying to have a gratitude practice on all of the ways that my friends and family had helped me and different things they had said to me. And the book just started evolving. And so each chapter is a piece of I tell my story and kind of where I was and following my divorce, or I was in some of the stories, I'm in the middle of the divorce, and I'd been married 31 years. So it was really tough. And each of these people gave me a piece of advice, and I share that story, and then I interview them and ask them to share their stories. So it ends up being, really about 11 mini memoirs. and they're just beautiful women. They're from all over the world, literally. And because I met some of them on my travels, and they're just all so gracious, and their advice is spot on. And then each chapter also has an empowerment practice in it, something that you can practically do for yourself to help you move forward. And the whole goal is to get unstuck. Yeah, the tagline is the power to get unstuck. And I want women to know they have power, and the power is in their choice. They have to choose to get better, to do better, to feel better. And I really, I hope that the book does that for people. I'm getting great feedback, and that's lovely, of course.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And the thing I think that's so, when you said gratitude, because sometimes that's really hard to do when you're not in a great place, right? Like it's really hard to sometimes find gratitude when you can't see light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, I feel like I hate to always say because I don't like to ever say I know where somebody has been, but at the same time, I feel like I know what that feels like to have to do gratitude when you just can't do gratitude. You can't be grateful. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like trying to forgive when you can have no forgiveness left, and it's the same thing, I get it. But it took me a while to get to the gratitude part. I had to work through some other things, very practical things like letting go of my anger and
Mm.
finally being able to forgive and things like that. Those steps had to come before I could really live a life of gratitude. And that's what I traveled for a year, and that whole year was about starting to really appreciate not necessarily what happened to me, but the results of how happy I am now and the fulfilling life and all the things I'm doing right now that I never would have done had I stayed married, and I never probably would have written a book. I never would have traveled the world for a year. I definitely have so plenty to be grateful for from the results of the divorce.
Yeah. And would you not agree that sometimes too, when you're in these moments and like everybody, I feel like everybody has their particular situation when we have these kind of, go through, I don't know what you want to call them, like sort of these crises that we go through, right? That sort of evolve us and propel us into this, what we knew, I say kind of on this other side of life, right? Wouldn't you agree that this journey, it's like sometimes you just have to go through the motion and run on faith a little bit. Like you sort of just have to do like, I got to do this, even if it doesn't feel like I want to do it. Because once it starts to kind of happen, then you look back and there's no like one day you wake up and you go, oh, all of a sudden everything I did worked and I'm happy. You just one day you sort of kind of get in that place and you
Yes.
go, man, like you've just progressively moved into this other side of
Yeah.
life. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it just comes one choice at a time, one choice at a time. And there's a beautiful story in the book about my friend Crystal. And she had some serious betrayal that had happened, and her world was rocked. She had 4 young boys. She was, a full-time student. She had gone back to school at the age of 42. And she was just really lost. And the way she talks about it in the interview is, I kept saying, why is everybody else not freaking out for me? Like, why is everybody else not saying, oh my God, Crystal. And she said, because they could see that I was going to be okay, even when I couldn't. And I had to trust my friends that I was going to be okay because I couldn't see it. And so I just had to step on that stepping stone and wait until I could see the next thing. And then I would take that step until I could see the next thing. And she says, yes, it'd be great if you could just go ahead and see it all and not have to trust in life and trust in the universe and trust in your friends. It would be great. But it
Yeah.
just kind of gets to that point. And like you said, in one day you go, wow, look at my life now. Look at my life.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's about trusting others, and sometimes it's about just making that choice for yourself. But
Yeah.
I love and I
No,
believe in the power
yeah,
of
and I
that
agree
choice.
with you on that. It's when you're in the thick of something like that, it's hard to see on the outside. I mean, people can look on the other, from the macro picture, look in, and to them it might be very easy. But when you're in the thick of whatever that is, pain, hurt,
Mm,
devastation, whatever that is for you, it feels heavy. And you do sometimes you just have to go through those motions. And people always ask, I say, like, if people see you, they'll see you on this side of things. And I've had this question come up before because they're like, have you always been this way? And I'm like, no, no, like no, there was a time. No, it's all the little
not even
choices that we
close.
make. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you see me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, just even the relationships that I was carrying, the people that were in my space have changed so
Mhm.
dramatically. And, I think that it's all, like you're saying, all these little choices that you make, they start adding up. Like it's one thing leads to the next thing.
Mhm.
It's almost like, when you go in and when I'm working with clients sometimes and they're getting hung up on, they want to change their diet. Like they want to exercise a lot and they change their diet. Well, for me, this is a no brainer. I work out every day. I eat healthy every day. I did not grow up working out every day. I didn't grow up eating healthy. I was a microwave child. We ate out all the time and we ate microwave food, so we didn't have healthy lifestyles. Somewhere along the way, that somehow got adopted into my life. And people ask that question, how did that happen? It's all these little small choices, because I always feel
Yes.
like when you try to tackle that one thing that you've never done, it is so hard. But if you start somewhere else and you start making some choices somewhere else, all of a sudden that thing you were trying to tackle doesn't look so big anymore because you've started
Right.
somewhere else and these choices start compounding. So it no longer becomes a, I guess, work anymore, right? I mean, you just sort of
Right.
kind of do it.
Yeah, that you pass that threshold, especially in training. Like I used to run half marathons. It was just I loved having that goal and that carrot at the end.
Hmm.
I started planning travel around a half marathon. I went to San Francisco. I went to New Orleans 3 times. It's a nice flat race. It's a good place to go.
We've been at that one. Yeah.
And but that is having that goal and that vision. And here's my 12-week plan. And it
Yeah.
was just something that was very gratifying to me. And now it's, that was just kind of back then when I was a mom of 3 girls and a working mom, and I had all of that. And now I think so much bigger for myself. And I really want even young women, I want them to start thinking bigger and start trying to manifest, dream, manifest, believe in yourself that you can do all these things. I talk about this with my girlfriends sometimes. Like, we did what we were brought up to do. We were supposed to be, we grew up in middle class America. We were supposed to go to high school, go to college, get married, get a job, have children, and then raise them to do the exact same thing. And it was just, that sitcom life almost, we were
Right.
all just mimicking this thing that we thought we were supposed to be. And yes, that's beautiful. And I'm grateful that I had it. But I also dream so much bigger for myself now and I think going through hard things gets you to that point, to where
Hmm.
you can dream bigger. So I would love for women to feel empowered to dream big from their 20s, get out
Yeah.
of that whole, this is what I'm supposed to do mode. And
Yeah.
yes, be a good person and do what you're supposed to do to be a good person. But other than that, the world's a pretty big place and you can get
Yeah.
beyond that.
It's interesting that you say that, Kelly, because I just had a gal that I talked to that is a coach for young teenagers, for like the teen years getting to graduation. And one of the things we were talking about is this whole idea that they have these expectations of what they're supposed to do. And I've always said this, and I've even sort of with my own children, because I also have 3 children. My youngest is now 18, so they're all at that adult stage now where we kind of I tell people I'm sort of at the not quite empty nester, but I'm at the Motel 6 stage where they're in and out and I leave the light on at the porch. Like I joke about it.
Good mom.
Do I leave the light on for you tonight kind of thing, are you coming home or you not? Right. But I think that, I'm at that place where with my children, even where I just want them to find something that they're passionate about and that they're happy. I don't care what it is. Just get excited about it, dream big, figure out what you want to do and enjoy it. Right. And I think that's kind of the message you and I are sending right here. I think what happens is we do all the things we're supposed to do. And then somewhere along the line, we realize life is more than just that. It's being passionate about what you want to do, enjoying it, having fun, right? And I think that's where that shift comes in. It's unfortunate that sometimes we have to go through those hard things to get to that place where we can embrace that and go, I'm done doing everything I think I need to be doing, the supposed to be doing, and I'm going to do things that I enjoy doing, embracing the relationships I want to be in, and find,
Yes.
things that I'm passionate about. So
Yeah. I love it.
I think it's a good thing. Yeah, I like what you're saying. I think we're on the same page, and I think we have many parallels here. Like you were talking about running. I used to run a lot too. I did a lot of half
Yeah.
marathons and trail races, and I did like several marathons. And we did the same thing. We would plan our travel around the races and the kids. And I even
So
had one
fun.
daughter that used to run with me. She actually ran her first marathon on her 16th birthday with me, and we were at in
Oh,
Tulsa
that's
at the Route
amazing.
66. So did a lot of
Yeah.
that too. So I think you and I have some parallels there in
Parallel
that.
lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
love
what I
it.
want to ask you is because you're all about, getting unstuck and making those choices. And so I want to talk, I guess, a little bit about this. You don't need to tell us everything, like I said, because I want to leave these people hanging a little bit so they can reach out to you if they want more. But maybe talk a little bit about maybe some of the choices you made, or maybe some of the things that you can offer them as maybe advice on getting unstuck, maybe like one thing they can do just to make a difference in their life and maybe move them in a different direction.
Well, I think two of my favorite empowerment practices are right in the beginning of the book, chapter 1 and chapter 2. And really, there's 3. I believe meditation is something I learned way later in life that makes a difference to anybody. Just taking that time to be quiet and meditate. And so I'll tie that in with chapter 2, which title of chapter 2 is called You Are Enough. And so I think, you know, learning to meditate and longer times, but just start for 3-4 minutes and just keep going. And there's plenty of free apps out there that are guided meditation that really kind of help you stay focused and stay inward. But if you can also tie in a self-love mantra with that. So, I have a sweatshirt I love. It says, "You are enough." Because when people are looking at me, I want them to know I think they're enough. And I believe that we should all be saying, "I am enough." We should all be looking in the mirror saying, "I love you and you rock." And if I don't love you today, I'm going to work on that, and I'm going to start doing the things I need to do to love myself more. And there's just something so powerful in looking it's probably making people cringe when they're listening to this. Like, I'm not going to look in the mirror and say, "I love you." But it's really important, and it's simple. It's a simple thing you can do that completely changes your attitude about yourself. And what happens when you start changing inside is that outside also starts glowing, and your happiness is so obvious, and your self-love and your appreciation for the world. So I think that's one really important thing. And then in chapter 1, I talk about vision boards and like having a vision for yourself. And I used to be the person that rolled my eyes at, "Oh, they're doing vision boards." And I totally admit that was me. And now I'm a huge proponent of it. And when I was hiking in Spain, I just literally accidentally ended up walking next to a psychotherapist from Sweden. And she asked me if I did vision boards. And I said, no, I can't do that. And I said, I don't happen to have a poster board in my backpack. And I was being kind of flippant. And she said, "Take out your phone." And she told me to open my notes app on my iPhone. And she said, "Start making a list." And I said, "Okay." And she's like, "Made a list of words of things that make you happy. That's the beginning of your vision board." And I was like, "Well, that was easy." And she's like, "Yeah, it's not about poster board and yarn and glue and magazine cutouts. It's about I was a writer, and so she was just like, "Start with words. That's what's important to you. If you're a photographer, start with your photography pictures. If there's something inside you that is a creative element, whatever that is, use that to start your vision board for yourself, or your vision list," as I call. And then I had another life coach last year, right after I retired. I just kind of wanted to have focus, and she was helping me with that. And she told me to write a story. Like, what does my life look like over the next year? And, it was like, I joked around with her as like, I turned it into a freaking romance novel. I guess I know where my heart is right now. So it's just, but that, just be creative and have a vision for yourself. It's really fun.
Yeah. You said a lot of really good things there, and you're absolutely speaking my language on all of that, because I also studied meditation. And and it's funny because I taught aerobics for many years. And so I remember in my 20s I was going to train, somebody had proposed to me to train yoga. And in your 20s, that's just not cool to do, and I remember walking into this class and watching all these ladies sitting on the floor and, breathing. And I walked out of there and I was like, no, I cannot do this, because I always associated meditation and yoga kind of together, the whole breathing and all of that. And so later on, fast forward, went somewhere around in my late 30s, my early 40s, I went in and studied transcendental meditation. And I did that to do with my daughter. We both went in and did it together. And I actually did this during the time I was going through a medical condition. And so it was instrumental in helping me with my recovery. And I talked about it in my book, not per se transcendental. I did talk about transcendental, but meditation as a whole. And so I do believe, there are many benefits to doing meditational, physiological, and just in getting in tune with your mind and just having that quiet time, right? Like, I love it now. Like, I love quiet time. I would love to sit down and do yoga. I work out, and at the end of my workout, sometimes I do my own little yoga stuff. So I think it's so funny how we kind of come full circle, on that. But also, to your point on those vision boards, I was like you. I was in Mary Kay Cosmetics for 22 years. I was a
Mm,
director in Mary Kay for over 15 years in that company. Man, I led teams within that in the organization. And we every year we would do vision boards. Every single year we would do them. And every year I would be like, this is so, excuse me, I just say cheesy. I'm like, I'm sorry,
yeah.
it's just cheesy. And when I started going through my journey, working with, my own coaching, like doing the life coaching and going through all of that, I started really making the connection about how what we think about really manifest in our lives. And so one year in 2018, I wrote out an affirmation. It was my version of a vision board, but it was on paper. I didn't draw it up, no pictures. I just wrote it out. I put 5 things on that. One of them was I was going to write a book. The other one was I was going to be a coach. And there was one more. Oh, I was going to be a speaker. Fast forward about 18 months later, I was in the middle of a coaching call with a client and I stumbled on that piece of paper by accident. I looked at it for a while, tucked it away, forgot about it. I pulled it out right in the middle of the coaching call. I had this just like chill that just sort of kind of came over me because I had realized that 3 of the things on that affirmation, that whatever that vision board, however you want to call it, had actually come to pass. I had written my book, I had formed my LLC, became a coach, and I had started forming a podcast. And I'd already done some speaking engagements. And so yes,
Love it.
those things are powerful. They are powerful. And I tell people, what you think about, you bring about. Wherever you're putting your energy and wherever you're
I
focusing,
love
that
that.
is exactly what you will manifest in your life, whether negative or positive. So
Right.
I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah,
It's
it's
powerful.
fantastic. It's fun. Like,
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
just use your true inner creative self, whatever makes you happy. Like when you think about doing it, whatever makes you smile. Like writing makes me smile. Talking to
Yeah.
people makes me smile. And so, if I can use those happy places to form my vision, then
Yeah.
that's my recommendation on how to do it. And I love to talk to people about it. It's just fascinating, the
Yeah. Yeah.
stories that
It's
come out of it, the positive things that come out of vision
right.
boards.
Yeah. And then that's what I was going to say. It's fun to see that transformation when they make, especially
Mhm.
too, when they start making that shift, they start really, you know, paying attention to how they're thinking, right? And how it's changing the course of their, even just the little things like their day, like, right. Their interactions in their day, like with their family and their friends or work, all those
Right.
things, like you'll start seeing that shift, and I think that's when it's fun when you can sit back and go, okay, yes, it's working. Like
Yeah.
they're doing it,
Yeah.
you know? So that's
Yeah, it's
fun stuff.
fabulous.
So I got kind of a fun question, Kelly, because obviously I can tell that you're into self care and personal development, all those things like me. And so, I always tell people, you're going to laugh. My morning routine is my morning routine. Like I get up at 5 o'clock every day, and I kind of have the same morning routine pretty much every day. It might vary a little bit
Mhm.
in the timing because I like to, kind of beat to my own drum and do my own thing. But I guard my mornings. Like I guard them. I don't like to do a whole lot of coaching calls or take client stuff in the morning because that's my time. And so I'm just curious because I know I have a feeling you do a lot of these things too. I'm just curious, what does your like self-care routine, like what do you do? Like what's your thing?
I do wake up early, and I have a friend, Beth, that back in Newport, where I live now, Newport, Rhode Island, and we meet every morning and we walk to the sunrise, and love to do that. And it's this beautiful nature sanctuary called Statuist, and there's deer and bunnies and hawks and seagulls and the waves crashing on the rocks, and it's just incredibly beautiful to I was landlocked in Tennessee most of my life. And so that's become my new routine. And then I go home and I have a cup of coffee and I make a smoothie that's just veggies and fruits. And I mix that up to keep it interesting, throw in an avocado every once in a while. And then I sit down and I do my top 10 things I'm grateful for, my gratitude list. And I read a book called The Magic by Rhonda Byrne, who she also wrote The Secret, and about the law of attraction. And so it was a 28-day gratitude practice. So I've really kept 3 practices from that book that I do daily now. And so I sit there with my coffee, I make my list. I kind of just say prayers of gratitude over that. And then I meditate for not for very long. There's 5 to 10 minutes. It kind of depends. And I try to really talk to my subconscious, and I really try to say great news is on the way. This is going to be a good day. I can't wait to hear what the great news is. And I'm just thinking, this is going to be a good day. And when I come out of that meditation, I just hit it. I go
Ready.
for it. And I'm looking for, whatever my list of the day is. And another piece of advice that somebody gave me was to make a list of 3 things you're going to do tomorrow, the night before. And so when you walk into that day, you have the 3 things and that you're going to work on. So you're not sitting there the next morning going, what am I going to do today?
Right.
And then the last gratitude practice is there's a little rock I keep beside my bed. And every night I pick that up and I just hold it and say this, what I'm most grateful for, my favorite thing that happened today. And the thing I'm most grateful for is, it might be having met someone new, or got to have lunch with my nephew, or got a phone call from my daughter, whatever it was. So it's like you go to sleep with gratitude, you wake up with gratitude. And it's changed my life. I think it's just really incredible.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's so funny because when I go through and you think about like what we do, all the little the pieces that we put together, and it's like, if you tell somebody to do all that at one time and they've never done that, it's like resistance, right? But again, it goes back to, you start with the small pieces and then eventually you have this whole like little routine that you have that is yours, and you guard it. It's like, that's how I feel. That's how I feel. And I love that walking. We walk every morning. We do our dogs. And so I do that. And then I have my morning workout because I have to work out again. So I have my private workout, but I have kind of like you, the same little, it's like I come back, I get up, I eat my breakfast, have my green tea. Then we go for the walk. We come back. I do my workout. I strategize my day. Like I just have this whole, and if I have to tap into that, I'm just kind of moody a little bit. I don't want to mess with that time of the morning,
Yeah, that walk is really important to me. And for Beth and I think it's like just like early morning therapy, because we just talk about whatever happened the day before and what are we looking forward to today. And so it kind of plays into the gratitude as well. And we're both out there in the dating world, so there's always fun fodder for that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that you have fun conversation, I'm sure there, right?
Sure.
This is so great.
It is fun.
Yes. Well, this has been so awesome. Thank you for your authenticity and for sharing. I'm excited about what you're doing. I know you've got a lot of great things because we shared off camera. We have some awesome things coming up. If our audience wants to get in touch with you, maybe pick up this book or learn a little bit more about what you've got going on and coming up, where do we want to send them?
So my website is ckcollins.co, and my contact information is on there. I do love to talk to book groups. I've zoomed into 4 different book clubs. I've done 2 in person, one in Tennessee and one in Rhode Island. So I love talking to book clubs because it's just so fun to hear how women think. And then I also have 10 ways to get unstuck, and it's a tip sheet that I'll eventually be making an online course out of, but it should be there for people to download and check out. It's very practical things like what we're talking about today, and just ways to have positivity in your life every day. And you can just kind of take what hits you and leave what doesn't, but 10 ways to get unstuck.com.
10 ways to get unstuck. We all need to get unstuck, right? I know that's how I feel. When I was trying to build out this program, like I'm working on this thing, and it's like I don't know if you're like this, but when I get too much going, I get overwhelmed and then I just freeze. And so I finally, my mentor that I'm working with, we did a mastermind 2 weekends ago. And I finally we put a deadline on it. We just put a deadline on it. And now I'm working and it's going to get done because I put that deadline and said, you know what? No more stalling. Just get it done. Right. Sometimes you just got to make those decisions, and you got to do what you got to do. So.
Well, I was in the news business, so deadlines are everything.
Yeah, Right.
So, yeah, I work better with a deadline for sure.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. Well, we so appreciate you coming on here and what you're doing. And thank you for, your contribution and for helping your people and making the world a better place, because that's what this is all about. And so we appreciate you taking the time with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Right back at you.
Thank you. And we do want to say, of course, to our listeners, if you enjoy our show, go give us a rating over on Apple. We need some ratings over there. And then, of course, you can follow us there as well. And so what I always say to you, take care of yourself and be kind to one another. We will see you next time.